Hi, Dr. Chris Arnold here of Arnold Family Chiropractic, and I want to talk to you about hormones. Whether you're male or female, we know it affects all of our lives. Whether you have irregular menstrual cycles, heavy cramping, irritability, even depression with menstrual cycles, whether you don't have cycles at all, have missed cycles, whether you have PCOS and endometriosis, infertility, whether you have problems with miscarriages, whether you're postmenopausal, having hot flashes, whether you are even having breast cancer, which we know is breast or uterine cancer, which we know has hormone triggers. Whatever the problem is I want to teach you and tell you that there are effective strategies to balance female hormones naturally. It's not something you have to live with. People, wake up. It's not something you have to live with. You don't have to take horrible drugs and medications even for the rest of your life to correct it. There are simple, natural things that you can do to balance it out. What I want to start out with is just kind of show you and educate you to hopefully make you better understanding of your own body, how all these hormones work, than maybe even your medical doctor does. Because do you know 7.5 million women in this country suffer from infertility that doesn't need to? That breast cancer is the leading cause of cancer of all women, and more than 2 million women currently have been diagnosed or treated for breast cancer, and female cancers are an all-time high. Why? Because hormone problems are an all-time high. They're off the chart, and it's things that we're doing to ourselves that's causing it. It's not genes. Stop blaming the genes. It's things that you can do, and we'll show you how you do it, that can change your hormones, and we change it every day in our office. One of my goals today is, again, create a new paradigm for healthcare, where, again, I'm going to teach you more about your body than what maybe your own doctor even understands. That understanding hormones and how they work and what happens if they become unbalanced, examining the tools and testing available to address hormone disorders. How do you know if you have a hormone disorder? How do we know what we need to do to balance it out? It's very simple and tests specifically that we have, and I'll show you to show you actually what is most imbalanced and what we need to do to correct it. And also introduce, wouldn't it be nice, natural remedies and foods? Yeah. If you could eat things differently to make your hormones better, would you want to know that? We are going to teach you that. And doesn't it make sense that when you have a cycle, don't you also crave certain foods? Doesn't that show you that there's something with the foods, nutrition, that might be triggering these things, and your body's craving that to help balance it out? And we'll show you why that is and what you can do to correct that. So simply eating differently can improve your health. Wow, what a concept, right? So you might ask, what do you know about hormones? I'm a guy, right? To be honest with you, I know a lot about hormones, and I want to quickly tell you a story. This is my beautiful family here. My beautiful wife Tina, my 3 kids, Olivia in the middle, son Isaac, and youngest daughter Sophia. So I have 3 women in my house. I understand a little bit about hormones. But I want to specifically talk to you about my wife and a personal story that happened to her. We actually met when we were in college, our actually first year in college. She was 19. At that time, she actually had suffered from severe menstrual cramps. She actually was diagnosed with some endometriosis, and at that time, which is still the case today, the first thing to do with a young female that has some cramping, what do? Throw her on the pill, right? Put her on some horse urine, right? That's where actually they get these hormones, estrogen, progesterone, in the pill form. That has to make her much healthier, right? Well, yeah, she felt better. She didn't have all the cramps. She had the cycle every 28 days the way we were designed to be, and she thought things were great, and we did too. Life was great. We dated for many years, and then all of a sudden she started to get really sick. She got really severe pains in her pelvic region. This was 4 or 5 years later. Went to see a doctor, and her endometriosis had completely spread throughout her whole pelvic region. Doctor said it was the worst case he'd ever seen, that she needed immediate surgery, or she was going to lose her ovaries. She wasn't going to be able to have children at all. So she actually went through and actually had the surgery done. Doctor cleaned up everything, and he came back and said, look, I don't even know what state your uterus and ovaries are going to be in. I don't even know if you're going to be able to have kids. Cool thing is that's when I was just starting my career into healthcare and understanding more and more about the body. I understood that maybe drugs and surgery wasn't the answer. Obviously, it hadn't worked for her. Yeah, it made her feel better, but it really hadn't corrected the underlying cause of the problem. Through some specific things we'll teach you later on here that we actually implemented with her and her life changes that she made, she was actually able to heal up from that endometriosis. She was able, obviously you can see, conceive 3 beautiful children who the doctor said she never thought she could do. And to this date, she does not have severe cramping. She does not have excess bleeding. Her endometriosis, I don't know where it's at. It's gone, right? It healed itself. Amazingly. Do you think your body can heal itself? It does. And it happens all the time. And my wife and lots of patients that see me prove this every day in our office. It's pretty cool. So we need to think, we're talking about hormones in a whole different way than what we've been trained to think, and we need to ask different questions. We need to look in different directions. Instead of always, this is what always been done, let's examine, is it really working, or is there a better way to actually improve your health through hormones? And another quick example of how we're going to do this is talking about the difference in healthcare. Let's just say, for some reason, you see a house on fire, right? Who are you going to call, right? You're going to call the firemen, right? And what do the firemen do? They come in and they bust down the doors and they spray the hose all over through the house. You know, there's some, your kitchen table they hack apart because it's on fire. They bust open, your closet doors, all the clothes, they spray down. And basically they put out every single smoldering ash in the house. And you think these guys are wonderful. They saved your life. Cheer, hooray! They saved everything, and thank God we have firemen. But this is what's left of your house afterwards. Everything's charred, everything's burnt, everything's wet. Everything is what? Destroyed. So now what? What are we going to do? You're going to call the firemen in again with their axes and hoses? Or are you going to call a carpenter who knows and understands how a house has to function and work, where he's going to slowly rebuild, put things back together, and make it new and functional again, right? So here's the difference with this analogy, is it has a lot to do with our healthcare system, right? There's firefighters out there all the time. They're called medical doctors, right? They have big hoses called medicine, right? Axes, which are called surgery, and scalpels. They do wonderful at saving people's lives, but they destroy the body in the process. And then there's people like carpenters, who are wellness doctors like myself and others, who understand the complexity of your body and the systems and the balances, where we don't try to disturb or make major changes, but we try to encourage the body through this evolution of health to actually become healthier and heal things. So when we go through these concepts I'm going to talk about, is this really a firefighter's principle, where we're just putting out symptoms and fires, but not really making the house functional? Or is this a carpenter principle who knows and understands how the body and how the house is supposed to function and work, and bringing back functionality to your body and to your house? So let's look at all the different organs, body parts that are actually associated with your hormones. And most people are surprised. There's things like your hypothalamus in your brain, your pituitary, your adrenal thyroid, your liver, your kidneys, and your uterus and ovaries, and even obviously your males, your testes. That most people think, well, I got a hormone problem, it has to be all down here, right, in my uterus and ovaries. You know what? Most hormone problems we're going to show you have nothing to do with your uterus and ovaries, have to do with these other major organs that, again, most doctors never even look at or even analyze, which is a shame. Female hormone imbalances. These are the things that will be created if you have female hormone problems. Obesity, depression, cancer, uterine breast, diabetes, sleep apnea problems. You know that your apnea might be a hormonal imbalance. It doesn't mean you have to strap a CPAP thing to your face, that it might actually be a hormone thing. Who would ever think that or look there, right? Aging, infertility, hot flashes, heart disease, cholesterol, endometriosis, PCOS, low libido. Mood swings and irritability are all related to female hormone imbalance. So that means if you correct the imbalance, guess what will improve? Isn't that amazing? But what we need to do is, in how we differ, again, as the carpenter, not the firefighter, is we look at the body in a different way. We look at it as called a Swiss watch principle. Then everything is interconnected, that all these organs that we just discussed are all working together. It's like a watch. You take the back off of it, you got all these hundreds of gears that have to spin and run to make the hands work, and they all work together. And just like your body, you know, your brain, your uterus, your brain and your adrenal glands, your thyroid and your ovaries, your liver and your kidneys all have to work together. So they all do this fine dance to create these hormones to make everything balanced. That's why you just can't look at one thing, but you have to look at all cogs of your health, whether it's your thyroid, immune system, muscular system, nervous system, which is hugely important, and all these different parts to make sure they're all functioning and working well, so you can identify what is the underlying cause. Because here are some of the major hormones. It's just not estrogen, progesterone. It's things like insulin, your thyroid hormones, your progesterone, testosterone, estrogen, serotonin, adrenaline, norepinephrine, cortisol, and even vitamin D have a lot to do with the hormones in your body. These are all hormones secreted in your body. These are all hormones that are regulated in your body. These all, if one of these are out of balance, it's just like making soup. It causes the whole soup to be sour or not work the way it should be. And here's just a quick example. I'm going to show you actually a whole pathway. And again, I'm a little geeky. I love all this biochemistry to understand what's actually happening. But just suffice to say is that basically here's a pathway of actually how your body builds hormones. We're going to start up here with this word called cholesterol. I know it's the boogeyman. Everyone says you got to have low cholesterol. Guarantee if you're in cholesterol medicine, you don't have enough cholesterol to even produce hormones. Guaranteed you probably have some type of hormone imbalance. It's an absolute. Don't try to kid me or say, no, mine's fine. You might not have symptoms, but if you don't have enough cholesterol to start the whole hormone pathway, it's not going to work from thereafter. So cholesterol goes to pregnenolone, and it converts into progesterone, which is one of our major hormones. The other side goes to DHEA, aldosterone, testosterone, and even your esters down here, which is your estrogen. There's actually different types of estrogen. We'll get to that in just a minute. But then progesterone can actually lead to cortisol. We'll talk about that in just a minute too. But what I want to show you is cholesterol, right? I want to show you, this is actually right out of WebMD. If you look it up, it'll say it's what? An essential structural component of all cells, right? And it's an important component in the hormonal system. So if you don't have cholesterol in your system, if you don't have enough fats, hormones are fats, then basically your body is not going to be able to function and produce. Cholesterol is a building blocks for hormones, so you need a certain amount of good fats, and we'll talk about that in a minute, to actually even start this hormone production. And then we go into insulin. Insulin is when we look at or think about diabetics. And insulin helps regulate blood sugar. It's actually a growth hormone. It's myogenic, meaning it causes muscle growth, regulates blood sugar, regulates moods, affects cortisol, and levels correlate to the level of estrogen. Here's what's important. Cortisol level goes up, your estrogen level goes up. If your cortisol levels go down, your estrogen levels will go down, and we can test that. And we know what we need to do to balance that out. Insulin also causes insulin imbalance. Poor diet, if you're eating a lot of processed fine carbohydrates. Stress will cause cortisol levels to go off, right? Toxic diet, viruses, and even bad fats will cause your hormones to become imbalanced, especially insulin. What can we do to balance hormones? Is simple things, right? We're not talking rocket science here, people. It's like things like exercise. If you exercise, your blood sugar goes down. Why? Because you produce more insulin. There's a wonderful herb called genema that is the most powerful thing I've ever found to regulate blood sugar. Again, we've used this extensively in our office for diabetics to actually bring and normalize their blood sugar, heal their pancreas, and get them off permanently from all their blood sugar medications. MSM, lower your stress level, obviously will help balance your insulin levels. And if you eat proteins, people, not carbohydrates, we need proteins, will actually help balance out insulin levels. And again, taking the right fatty acids, like your omega-3 fatty acids, actually help bring your insulin levels back into balance. Then we talk about thyroid problems. Thyroid disorders are a major problem. 2.5 million Americans suffer from some type of thyroid disorder. That's major. Approximately 80% of all thyroid disease is experienced by who? Females. And thyroid disease is the most common endocrine disorder in the U.S., exceeding diabetes by 40%. You think everyone knows that they have diabetes, right? If you have symptoms, a lot of people don't know they have thyroid disease. We see it every day again in our office. People coming in, do you know your thyroid might be off? Have you ever had it tested? No. They go test and bam, it's way off. Makes sense. A lot of women, again, almost 80% of all women have some type of thyroid dysregulation. And again, guaranteed, even your doctor's not even testing your thyroid the right way. What are the symptoms of thyroid? You have weight gain, if you're fatigued, if you have cold hands and feet, if you have thinning of the hair's kind of falling out, mental sluggishness, depression, or even constipation are all signs that your thyroid is not working well, hypothyroidism. This is the incomplete thyroid testing. Most doctors only test the TSH levels. That's all the further they look at. They never even look at the T3, T4, or even your free T3, T4. That is what your thyroid actually produces. But we need to actually even go a step further, because TSH level, this is your brain talks to your pituitary. Pituitary produces TSH, which is your thyroid stimulating hormone, which then tells your thyroid to actually start working. If you just measure your TSH level, you're just measuring how well your brain or your pituitary is talking to your thyroid. It never measures how well your thyroid is even working or functioning. You're missing the big picture. Then most people says, well, I'll just measure the T3, T4. That's great, but T3, T4 is produced by the thyroid, but it has to go where? To the liver to actually be converted, right? Actually, free T3, T4 is converted into T3, T4 here by the liver, and then it goes into your adrenal glands, it goes into your skin, it goes even to your digestive system to be further converted. And what also is not in this picture too is we got antibodies. Do you know 60% of all thyroid problems is an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's, where your own immune system attacks your own thyroid? Most doctors never even look at to see if you have thyroid antibodies, meaning your immune system is attacking your own thyroid. Most doctors don't even measure it. It's a simple, easy test just to order. It's called Hashimoto's. Look up. Most thyroid problems are that related. And again, it's easy. All you do is balance your immune system, and basically your body stops attacking itself. Thyroid levels come back up to normal. It's what we need to work on naturally, not just giving the medication and covering up. Because I can't tell you the patients I've seen with Hashimoto's coming in with on some type of synthroid or levothyroxine. That only makes and feeds the problem worse. You get them off of levothyroxine, you balance out the immune system, and their thyroid comes back to normal. Next thing we need to talk about in this paradigm, or this Swiss watch principle, is adrenal glands, which are huge. Contributes about 35% of all female hormones premenopausal and 50% of all hormones postmenopausal. So, but I thought hormones were only produced by this. Right here it says there's a good portion of it's produced by where? Your adrenal glands, which sit right above your kidneys, right? Furthermore, without proper function of adrenal glands, pregnancy cannot occur. Can't tell you how many cases of pregnancies that we've helped in our office where it had nothing to do with uterus and ovaries, but it had to do with their adrenal glands. As soon as you balance out of the adrenal glands, all of a sudden they'll be able to get pregnant. We'll show you in just a minute how that occurs. And this is, again, I'm going to show you right now. This is actually an adrenal stress test where we actually measure your adrenal function. You can see we want the score, and that's what the blue line is in the green zone. You can see it's really high. This dips really low out of the zone and back up again. When your cortisol levels dip too low, it affects your progesterone levels. You cannot get pregnant without enough progesterone. So when your progesterone levels bottom out, or your cortisol levels bottom out because your adrenal glands not producing enough, with adrenal fatigue from too much stress, then all of a sudden your progesterone levels drop way too low, and you can conceive, get pregnant, but then you have miscarriages all the time. That has to do with adrenal problems, insufficiencies. Balance out the adrenal glands again, not the hard thing to do, and all of a sudden you produce enough cortisol, your progesterone levels come back to normal, and all of a sudden pregnancies happen the way they're designed to be. We see a lot of this phenomenon actually happening with women with their second pregnancy. Their first pregnancy they can see, but then they can't get pregnant the second time, because one of the things that squashes your adrenal function is going through birth the first time and taking and rearing kids. That increases a lot of stress level in your body, and that will also lead to your cortisol levels being dipped because they're being so fatigued and overworked, and then all of a sudden, again, you can't conceive again. So bringing up adrenal glands, all of a sudden, again, conception that second time around happens the way it should be. So food is more emotional than it is ever physical. How many people ever eat because they're hungry, or how many people eat because they're emotional? They feel a need or desire. And that's what we want to talk about, that food can actually feed our body, or it can actually make us unhealthy. And the first thing we want to talk about is sugar. Is it good for us? And the answer is yes. Your body could not function if it doesn't have sugars in our system. The one that's most important is glucose. That regulates energy with your body. We've got xylose, galactose, fructose, mannose, N-acetylene galactosamide, then N-acetylene glucamide, and then N-acetylate neuracmic. Those are all different sugars that are in that your body produces on its own naturally inside your own body to regulate different functions. And those are all natural things. Now these are toxic sweeteners that we eat all the time. Do the names match up? We got Splenda, which is sucralose, high fructose corn syrup, aspartame, equal, saccharin, even sucrose, table sugar are all different. They have that os or acnin or whatever, but they're differently. When you put them inside your body reacts to them in a different way and it processes them a different way. So if you want to say, well, I still have a sweet tooth, can I eat certain sugars that might actually benefit me? Instead of actually making me ill. Some of the ones we use in our house and some of the changes we encourage our practice members to go to is xylitol. Xylitol is a natural one. You want to make sure it comes from birch trees, not from corn. But if you get good xylitol, it's produced in your body, it's naturally inside your body knows what to do with it, it's not a foreign substance, very low glycemic index, meaning it doesn't cause the raise in blood sugar, and it also doesn't have very many calories. We also got raw honey, stevia, maple syrup, birch syrup, coconut sugar, which is amazing how healthy that is, and actually organic cane sugar is probably the last alternative, but it's still a natural one. And then we go back to fat. Didn't we say at the very beginning, hormones are all based on what? Fats, right? You need actually certain essential fatty acids to, again, produce hormones and you actually keep the rest of your body healthy. We got omega-3s, omega-6s, different types of omega-6s. We got lauric acid, which is a saturated fatty acid that's only found in coconuts, right? Coconuts have one of the most highly saturated fats you can find. And again, that used to be the boogeyman for a long time. Now we know saturated fats are very stable, very healthy. They don't break down into trans fats like all these unsaturated fats very quickly. So coconut oil is a wonderful thing that we use in our house all the time. We cook with it, we eat it. Very delicious, very highly energetic, and actually very good for your body. And then we got palmitic acid, which is a monounsaturated fatty. So where can you get some good fatty acids in our diet? It's things like nuts and seeds. Things like chia seeds. Yeah, the chia, right? There's some of the most potent, amazing fatty acids are actually found in those little seeds that you used to spread over those little clay objects and grew the hair. Yeah, whoever thought they'd actually be health food? And they are. They're very delicious, very full of a lot of good fatty acids. There's pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds. We talked about how wonderful coconut products are. Walnuts, pecans, most other nuts. There is some in olive oil. Please do not cook your olive oil. You actually break it down and it's not as healthy for you. There's hemp seed oil and actually maca, which actually is a very good source of fatty acids. If you want to cook, just a little FYI, coconut oil has a very high heat tolerance, will not break down. Cook with coconut oil, please not olive oil. Olive oil is great to eat raw, room temperature, but please don't cook with it. And then there's this maca we mentioned. What is maca? It's actually a super female aphrodisiac, right? It's actually was a root or plant grown in India. Actually, the people over in India actually eat and consume a lot of it. It's actually used for a lot of hormonal imbalances. It has all these essential fats, proteins, and polysaccharides. It helps with female and male balance. And it also improves sex drive, right? Isn't that amazing? Just taking a little bit of this actually improves libido and actually balances out your hormones. And you can find maca. You can actually cook with it. You can make cookies. My wife has a wonderful cookie recipe. She uses maca powder in it. So it's actually something that's very versatile. But again, it's a natural thing that actually can be used. Bad fats. What are the fats that people eat and consume that actually make things worse? Vegetable oils. Throw out your coin, soy, actually your any type of canola oil, vegetable oil, all that stuff needs to go. Shortening, hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils, trans fats, margarine, it's not real fuel, get rid of it. Or non-organic fats, additives, artificial flavors, and actually artificial sweeteners are all bad foods that actually make hormonal balance even worse. Some of the healthy cooking oils, we talked about coconut, raw butter, grapeseed, rice bran, and even macadamia nut. There's even things like raw chocolate. It's called actually cacao. Is actually the raw form of chocolate. Cacao bean is what's actually cocoas come from. They take it, they heat it, they break it down, and then they actually make chocolate out of it. Cacao is actually the raw bean. It's not heated. It's actually in its raw form. You can find a lot of health food stores. My wife cooks and uses a lot with it with cocoa. Instead of cocoa, it actually has a deeper, richer, darker flavor with it. It actually is, again, very healthy. If you eat it, you get the raw product, not the processed product. Again, keiko means the food of the gods, number one source of magnesium of any food, and magnesium is the number one thing that most women, most adults are actually deficient in the world. Some of the sources contains PHEA, contains tryptophan, actually contains serotonin, and it actually, if you cook it like they do for chocolate or cocoa, you actually destroy all of these good things when you heat it. So if you get the raw keiko, you're actually much better off. Keiko, you can actually buy it in the beans. There's actually called little nibs that look like actually little kisses or chocolate chips. There's actually keiko powder, butter, paste, and even fruit, and even there's keiko oil you can actually utilize and use. So let's go back to hormones and stuff, understanding the balance that goes in this whole hormonal soup that all women battle with or utilize every day. There's two female hormones that are secreted by the ovaries. We talked about how they're also secreted by your adrenal glands. There's estrogen and progesterone. They're also they're inverse. Basically, when your estrogen levels go up, your progesterones go down, and then vice versa. They have to be in that ratio. They actually, if they're not in that ratio, then things don't work well. Estrogen, this is the queen bee. It controls so many things of your body. It's actually started to produce during puberty. As a general role, estrogen promotes growth. That's why they actually give hormones to cattle, right? Estrogen hormones, growth hormones to cattle, because estrogen causes all cattle, male or female, to grow. Basically, too much of this causes growth of what? Endometrial tissues. That's endometriosis, right? It's actually an imbalance of estrogen. And it's actually, the role of this hormone is actually, it's very mood lifting and gives us a great feeling of well-being. And estrogen is the major hormone through about 20 days of your cycle. So that's why through the early part of most people's cycles, women's cycles, they feel really good. They got this sense of well-being. How diet, stress, and environment affects estrogen levels, that is, again, it decreases essential fatty acids, will decrease the production. Remember, going back to our whole hormone pathway, if you don't get enough essential fatty acids, cholesterol, you won't produce enough estrogen and progesterone. DES contains estrogen used by the day after birth control pills. It's, again, fed to livestock to feeding them up. So again, if you're eating these meats that come from these factory farms that are fed all these hormones, it's still in the meats, right? And you're still going to consume it. Your estrogen levels are going to go way up and go off balance. Plastics contain estrogen derivatives. They're called xenoestrogens. It's actually found in a lot of the plastics. And again, women are drinking all this plastic or water that's in plastic bottles. I like to see the water, but not in the plastic. You're actually drinking estrogen every time you do that, and it's actually causing hormonal imbalance. And also the other one is stress will decrease progesterone levels and cause estrogen to be dominant, right? If you're under a lot of stress, your body doesn't want to grow. It doesn't want to develop, right? So that's why you're going to decrease your estrogen production when you're under stress. And again, if you don't have enough estrogen, things are getting off balance. Common estrogen dominant conditions, we talked about endometriosis, growth, right, of these endometrial lining, fibristic cysts, premenstrual syndrome, polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, again, fibrosis, breast cancer, ovarian cysts, cervical dysplasia, infertility. Let's go back to the PCOS. I have a lady that came to my office. I see a lot of ladies with actually PCOS. They come in actually on metformin, which is actually a diabetic drug. Why do they give diabetic drugs to women who have infertility problems, have PCOS? Because they know cortisol and insulin levels, especially insulin levels, are affecting what? Estrogen. So they know if they drive down insulin levels, even if you're not diabetic, if they drive down your insulin levels far enough, it actually helps bring down those high estrogen levels that most women suffer from, bringing them back into balance and actually allowing some women to conceive. So they think, hey, we found a solution, right? Really? Giving a diabetic drug to a woman that's trying to get pregnant is really the solution? Why don't we just try correcting what? The underlying issue, which is the estrogen dominance. Naturally, by not soaking up so much estrogen from our sources or from stress, right, and bring it back into balance. That's really how you get people healthy, because all these women, yeah, they get pregnant, and all of a sudden they go back off the metformin because you can't be on it when you're pregnant or even afterwards, right? And all the endometriosis comes back, all the infertility issues come back, everything comes back the way it should be, or the way it was before, right? Never getting the underlying cause. Excessive estrogen can accelerate aging, allergies, bone loss. We talked about fibrocystic disease, fibromyalgia, fatigue, fibroids, water retention, thyroid dysfunction, insomnia, infertility, increased blood clotting. We got hair loss, gallbladder disease are all what? Effects of estrogen imbalance. So again, estrogen is not a hormonal thing that just affects your nerves, it affects your entire body. And again, it's something that needs to be looked at if you really want to truly be healthy. Causes of estrogen dominance are, again, we talked about commercially raised cattle and poultry, exposure to xenoestrogen plastics, industrial solvents, overproduction of estrogen, stress, obesity, consumption of trans fats. Actually, a lot of your women, your cosmetics are actually estrogen based and actually cause estrogen levels to increase really dramatically. Yeah, it's just a little bit of eyeliner. There's so much estrogen in that eyeliner, it's amazing. Brings your levels way up. And even increased sugar and even soy. Please stay away from soy. Soy has so much estrogen in it, it raises your estrogen levels way high. So whether it's soy milk, soybeans that you're eating, stay far away from it. Again, it's only going to cause major imbalances and a lot of hormonal problems. There's also bad estrogen. And we talked about there's actually, remember that whole pathway that said there's estrogen, estrols 1 and estrols 2. One's bad and one's good. Actually, your body needs to detoxify and get rid of all the bad estrogen that your body utilizes as kind of the byproduct of a lot of different functions. One of the ways that your body does remove a lot of the bad estrogens is through your liver, through your detoxification process. And if your liver is not working properly, and your liver is out of balance, what's going to happen to all this bad estrogen? They're going to build up in your system, you're going to get estrogen imbalance. So again, I can't tell you how many people we've helped with infertility problems just by what? Detoxifying, getting them a clean liver. All of a sudden, hormones balance out, women can get pregnant. But why would a liver have anything to do with infertility, right? It's because we look at the body like a carpenter, not a firefighter, right? Let's just not blast the hose and cut and scrape it, all the uterus and ovaries. Let's look at all the body and make it all function healthy. Then again, my goal is just not balancing whatever hormonal issue you have is, let's make you healthy. And a side effect of becoming healthy is what? Your body is going to function, and one of the things that's going to balance is hormones. So we got liver things, and there's a whole class that you can read on our, listen to on our website. Go under the purification or detox class. You can listen actually how simple it is to detox your body and cleanse up your liver. Thousands of different health benefits from that. But other things you can eat that help remove a lot of these estrogens is actually berries, one of the best antioxidants. Just listened the other day to Dr. Oz talking about all these super berries. He listed off a few of them. You don't need all these super berries, and it was whatever product he was promoting. Just eat berries. You eat your good dark berries like your blackberries, your blueberries, some strawberries, but even your raspberries contain a lot of these estrogen removers. There's actually citrus peel, cruciferous vegetables, which is all your vegetables like your broccoli, your cauliflower, your cabbage, your Brussels sprouts, your kale, all those good dark green vegetables actually have a lot of cleansing properties to your liver and also these hormones. We actually got melatonin, which actually help remove estrogens. This is great to actually help people sleep. And iodine. The iodine actually helps stimulate your thyroid. I can't tell you how important most people are actually missing iodine. It actually helps bring out thyroid function. We have a lot of women who have actually hot flashes. You wouldn't be amazed at actually how much iodine. Usually within, if I give someone iodine for hot flashes, within 5 days their hot flashes are gone. I mean, like gone now, none, no more, just with a little bit of iodine. But don't go out and run out and get iodine. I've got to tell you this, please be careful with this. Because if you actually have a Hashimoto's type of thyroid problem, if you give it iodine, it's going to be fuel to the fire. You're going to make yourself even more worse. So you got to do some testing before you just throw iodine to your body. But again, if we find out you don't have any thyroid problems or any Hashimoto's, iodine is an amazing thing. It also works very well for cysts, breast cysts, uterine cysts. Again, in a couple of days, those cysts clear up with a little bit of iodine. It's just an amazing thing. We talked about stress. It could be stress, physical, chemical, or mental, emotional, that's placed on your body. Your body doesn't perceive them any differently. Causes things to be out of balance. Disruptions will cause, again, a disruption in your hormone cycle. And here's how it actually works. This is the pathway. We talked about the acetyl-CoA. This is where some of your pregnenolone, this is your cholesterol that actually starts up here. Actually, part of it goes to progesterone. We said progesterone is necessary for pregnancy to occur, but if you have a lot of stress, that's what happens, what they call pregnenolone steal or progesterone steal to make cortisol. Your adrenal glands produce a lot of hormones. It has to choose, do I need progesterone today or I need under stress cortisol? If it's under stress, every time it'll produce cortisol and you won't have that progesterone level. So without progesterone, what happens? Estrogen becomes dominant, so your estrogen levels become way out of balance. And we said we need to do what? To get pregnant is have progesterone. So a very easy thing we do when we have this situation for women who have adrenal fatigue, way out of balance, just balance the adrenal glands so they actually have more reserves, so they're not always producing the cortisol, and we actually get progesterone now produced, and guess what happens? Your body gets back to being that right balance, and amazing things happen like babies happen, right? Isn't that pretty cool? So how do we test that? Again, here's another cortisol test we look at. This one actually shows up here. Actually, some of the building blocks, your DHEA, DHEAS, and it actually shows if they're in balance. And then that test also shows actually progesterone levels. And we know progesterone is steroid hormone. Major roles is to balance estrogen. Progesterone is actually the most dominant in the last 7 to 10 days of your cycle. It's actually produced by the brain and other peripheral nerves and possibly other locations. Again, it's not actually made in the ovaries. Only a little bit is made in the ovaries and adrenal glands. Normally, women have much more progesterone than estrogen most any given time, all right? But it's when that estrogen balance gets way out of balance, which we talked about, from our environment, from what we eat, throws off that progesterone really bad. Again, the purpose of progesterone is the menstrual cycles to prepare the female body for conception and possible pregnancy. So it's going to start to spike and peak during the last 10 days of your cycle. And again, if conception has occurred, that spike is going to continue to go and you're going to stay pregnant. If no conception happens, then it basically drops off. Estrogen comes back to being dominant. You go through the cycle, the cleansing process, and normally back into a new cycle. So without this ebb and flow of the estrogen and progesterone, you don't get normal cycles, you don't get normal flows, and even if it's really abrupt, that's where you get the heavy cycles, the severe cramps. So that nice ebb and flow is what we actually need. And the name implies progesterone is a hormone that's progesterone. It actually helps the fetus actually grow, and it actually protects us against the estrogen effects of growth. Known functions of progesterone is helps control excessive bleeding and irregular menstrual cycles, reduces hot flashes, helps balance estrogen levels, prevent uterine cancer, prevents osteoporosis, increases libido. Isn't that amazing? Aids in healing of certain types of nerve diseases, improves sleep patterns, enhances mental clarity. Who wouldn't want a little bit of that, right? Could you think of something just like your hormones that's not allowing you to think right? How many women say that when they're going through, cycle? I just wasn't thinking right today, It's because their estrogen and progesterone levels were out of balance. It's also a natural diuretic. It's a natural antidepressant. It's also a natural muscle relaxant. It helps your body and muscles relax. Facilitates thyroid function. So again, you need enough of this to help your thyroid actually work. I mean, we're back to the thyroid thing. How does that have to do with anything? Do you start to see how these puzzles come together? Most of the time when you go to your firefighter doctor, right, he only looks at what? Never looks at thyroid, never looks at any of these things. It's just an estrogen and a progesterone or uterus and ovary problem, right? He never looks at that, but we know it does work together. Helps normalize androgen levels, regulates sensitivity to estrogen, helps protect against the autoimmune diseases, and progesterone is the maturation and growth effect in all tissues. Also, too, is high progesterone levels can also cause depression and fatigue. And we said progesterone levels are highest when at the end of the cycle. Most women feel tired when they're menstruating. Most women feel tired and fatigued and even depressed during the end of the cycle because the progesterone levels is dominant, but then it comes right back down, right? So it's only for a short term, but there are things we can regulate. And this was the cycle I was talking about. Again, the estrogens are in red. You see how it's most dominant at the very beginning, and it's not until the last little bit that your progesterone levels actually spike, but then it comes back down, and when the spike comes back down is when you actually have that menstruation, you lose all the tissue, and you start rebuilding again healthy tissue for the next possible pregnancy. So again, it's this ebb and flow when things need to happen. And again, see how it's a 28 or 30-day cycle, and see how those cycles change. Most doctors will measure here, right? Well, you have really low estrogen levels. Well, no kidding, I'm supposed to be on the 30th or the 20th day of my cycle, right? You know, how many days, in between there do we look and see? You know, does maybe your cycle start way too early? Does it elevate too fast? That's what the test actually look at, and that's what actually we determine, just like with this one. You see how we have this really nice spike here at the very beginning of the cycle. That's really nice. Your estrogen is coming up. Progesterone comes down, but you kind of see how this flatlines. This is actually supposed to go back down a little bit. This bottoms out a little bit too much. So her estrogen levels and progesterone levels do somewhat of this little dance, but they need to be accentuated to actually get that full rhythm and to actually get this happening. So that was what her problem was, and once we got these balanced out, again, functioning better. We actually found some liver issues with her that are actually now are clearing up. Endometriosis is completely gone. And actually, like I said, we're actually getting her off her birth control. She doesn't need to take it anymore. She's only taking it because of the endometriosis. So again, she doesn't have to take many pills, and she actually gets healthier, has felt better, has more energy. Her immune system, she's not as sick as often, yada, yada, yada. Just a really totally new person now that we actually found and were able to balance this out. So what are natural hormone builders that actually help regulate this thing? We talked about maca, we talked about cacao, we talked about hemp. No, not the type you smoke, but hemp seed, which has good fatty acids. Chaste tree or chaste tree berry is something we use a lot in our office, an herbal thing, does really well. We got bee pollen, colostrum, deer antler, tribus, we use a lot of that. Australis, we use a lot of that. Coconut products, or even goji berries. There's even herbal things like ashwagandha, dong quai, very good for infertility issues. Horny goatweed, kelp, saw palmetto, even mushrooms and stuff actually help balance and improve your immune system. So it's really neat. Is all you have to do is eat natural things like food sources. That's all these are, is different plants from food, and it helps your body regulate things and bring it back to normal. And the fact about it is these things you don't have to take for the rest of your life. If you're taking an herb for 30, 40 years, you don't need to be, because you don't know, someone's not giving you the right herb. They're doing it just to, let's say, alleviate symptoms, or not help balancing your body and restoring it back to natural balance. Because if you're using these products in the right way, it should be a short-term rebalancing, healing your body, bringing it back the way they should be, and then you shouldn't need to maintain these for ever. So what do we learn about hormones? First of all is that hormones come from different parts of your body. Please just don't believe it's all uterus and ovaries. Please just don't believe that it's estrogen and progesterone. There's things like your brain, your thyroid gland. There's things like your pituitary. There's your liver, your adrenal. It is your uterus, ovaries, and even your testes. All these things have to work to be in balance. And again, doctors with their firefighter hoses only want to destroy and only work down through here. Yeah, let's give them diabetic drugs, right, to balance hormones. Does that make sense? Or let's give them hormone replacement therapy to make up for certain things. Let's give them horse urine, right, to help them through these things. That is not the mentality we need to use. We need to look at the entire system, the entire body. Look at it through your carpenter. What do we need to do to rebuild things? What can we do to test these different organs and organ systems to find out which ones are out of balance? What do we need to support and help grow so we can bring your body back into its natural state of homeostasis? When that happens, hormones balance, women start to function, regulate, normal cycles happen without cramps, endometriosis go away, pregnancy happens. It happens every day in our office. I mean, I'll be honest with you, when I see a hormone case, it's almost boring, because it's something we see every day. And it's like something, it's like, it's not that big of a deal to correct if you just understand and know how the body's supposed to function and work. So how do we know what systems are out of balance? This is a simple health survey. This is a thing that you can fill out online that basically just goes through and talks about and actually certain questions, and then we get a printout that shows you which system's out of balance. And then we take the top 2 or 3, like this one's liver, gallbladder, GI system, sugar dysregulation. Now we know which systems are actually most out of balance. We can actually start working on it. If it's your adrenals way high, then we know we need to balance your adrenals. If it's your thyroid is way high, we know we need to balance your thyroid. We don't have to balance all of them. Usually we just balance the top 2 or 3, get a couple of those gears working in that watch, all the rest of them start working again, and all these things come back into balance the way they should be. So, in the end, I just want to tell you that these hormone problems don't have to be a lifetime issue. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to use medications for the rest of your life. There is possibilities. There is solutions. There is natural remedies to actually get your body back working well. Some of it has to do with eating healthy, whether it's eating proper nutrition, whether it's get rid of some bad sugars and bad fats. Eating the right healthy fats can actually bring things back into balance. But the short about it is correctable, it is functional, and hopefully you now understand more about your hormones in your body, so when you go to your medical doctor and they're not giving the satisfaction that you want, you know to ask the right questions. Are you measuring my whole cycle, the whole 28 days, or are you just looking at one day? Are you looking at my adrenal glands? Are you looking at my thyroid? Are you looking at this? Are you looking at that? If they're not, then you need to find a carpenter that's really going to do what they need to do. So if by watching this video, if you do have more questions, don't hesitate to either call my office, drop me an email, say, hey, Dr. Chris, what you can do for me. I work with people all across the country. You don't actually have to live by my office to utilize my services. There's things that we do over the phone consultations. We can run these tests at anywhere. We can actually help you out and get you back on track. So again, do we have any success stories? Again, read the testimonies that are on our website to tell you, again, women after women who have now able to conceive and conceive again by actually getting them balanced out. Again, it's not that simple, it's not that hard. You just have to be educated and teach you, like I hopefully did tonight, that there is other solutions and there is other possibilities. So I appreciate your time. Hope you learned something. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me, and take care and God bless.